The Vikings took one off the Packers earlier in the year. That was a long time ago. Can the Packers get it back, or are the Vikings going to keep on rolling and win a ninth straight? Welcome to the Locked On crossover.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, football fans? It is Locked On Crossover Vikings and Packers. I'm Luke Brun. I do Locked On Vikings here with Peter Bukowski. He does Locked On Packers. Peter, what is up? Coming off, as we were recording this, thanks to the holidays, literally seconds after the shutout win the Packers had over the Saints. So I'm sure you're feeling great right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, anytime you can get a shutout win, it feels pretty good. But it is like
I love shutouts in Lambeau.
Immediately into having to deal with, the division rivalry. It was one of those funny things where, like, I wanted to engage because I like to engage with the Vikings fans. Right away on Monday, but it's like, no, the Packers still have to go out Monday night and take care of business and take care of the Saints. Luckily, they were able to do that, and now we can just sort of shift all of our energy toward what is a marquee matchup, a really fun matchup for these two teams that, as you and I were discussing, off air before we came on, that has a little less juice than I was hoping, but still, because these two teams hate each other, because the Vikings won already in the fashion that they won, this Packers team is going to come out, I think, pretty pissed off to play this team in Week 17, which should make for a good one.
Well, it's like this yearly tradition where the Vikings take the first one, and then the Packers come out like they brood on it for 2 months, and then come out in the second one, and it's been I think 3 years in a row, the second game has been like a blowout Packer win. So I guess I would love to just get an update on, because when we saw the Packers Week 4, we saw that the first half of that game was a total disaster, so much so that all the moonballs in the world was the comeback that fell short. Plus, the fourth quarter interceptions, it's not Jordan Love's best day. So we're now, right in the heart of the Toyota-thon. So what changes? What is different? Why is it that the Packers, as soon as you kiss Thanksgiving, suddenly become like this bulldozer?
I assume the turkey. No. I think.
Does Josh Jacobs still have some leftovers? Because he took quite a bit after
absolutely
that.
Not. No. He ate all those that night, I'm sure. And all he's been doing, by the way, since then has been eating. He has eaten up every defense that he has played. I think part of it is the way that this roster is constructed, because they are better equipped now than maybe they've been in the entire Aaron Rodgers era to play December football, to play cold weather football. They will come down and hit you in the freaking mouth in a way that we just we're not used to in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers teams. Those teams, the criticism of those teams, Luke, like you were
they were never run teams.
And they were finesse teams, which is and I'm not going to use the S word, but it is the worst word that you can use to describe a team. And some of those Packers teams, let's be honest, that's what they were. And this Packers team is not. I also think that it's worth mentioning, last year, youngest team in the league. So it makes sense that in the second half, the boneheaded penalties
get it together.
And your coaches are understanding, okay, this is what these players are capable of doing. Youngest team in the league again this year. So you're relying on rookies. You're relying on Edgerrin Cooper to come in, and he's been in and out of the lineup because he's been dealing with injuries. You don't have Javon Bullard and Evan Williams. It sounds like Evan Williams is going to miss this game, which is pretty tough because Evan Williams has been playing pretty good football this year. So you might be without your starting nickel corner in Javon Bullard. You might be without your starting Mike linebacker and Quay Walker. You might be without your starting safety in Evan Williams. Okay, well, next guy up, Zane Anderson, got a pick against Spencer. I know Spencer Rattler, but still, he played well.
Look, I was told
as well against the Detroit Lions when he had to come in for Evan Williams, or 3 weeks ago, whatever. What is time? Anyway, so it is weird now to watch this team and not have the red zone boneheaded false start penalties, and not have some of the things that scuttled drives early in the season. 4 for 4 in the red zone on Monday night. Since the bye week, this has been one of the best offenses in the league. Jordan Love, you mentioned the Toyota-thon experience, was coming into the game. I've not seen the updated numbers, was leading the league in EPA per play The Packers were second in offensive DVOA since week 11, second in defensive DVOA since week 11. Something has clicked for this team the last month plus, and they are playing their best football right now. I can't explain it, but this happens, Luke. Like, go back and think of some of those Seahawks teams, those Pete Carroll Seahawks teams. Even when they would go 10-6 in the second half, they look like the best team in the league. And that's kind of how, for whatever reason,
like the Niners a couple years ago, there they rattle off 10 straight after like a 2-4 start.
Exactly right. And sometimes this just kind of happens. And does that mean playoff success? No, not necessarily. But for whatever reason, they've found a way to come together in this way. They've also been, like the Vikings, lucky with injuries.
I was going to say, it's like, so everybody gets hurt, but the Vikings and Packers kind of haven't. And here we are on these win streaks.
And I not a coincidence. Let's be honest about that. I mean, if the 49ers were healthy, they might be in some of these conversations, right? Like if the Lions were healthier, they'd be the prohibitive favorites in the NFC, but that's not how football works.
Yeah.
We know that in a given season, those things can change immensely. So it's a lot of the same guys, but everyone's just kind of playing better.
Yeah, well, and it's funny you bring the Lions into this because I think we have to just talk about where this NFC North is and how it's insane.
Yeah.
The NFC North minus the Bears, who don't exist. Okay, that's fine.
As I've often said.
So the three NFL teams in the NFC North are 34-8. Come at me. All right. Yeah. Go cry to me more about Darnell Mooney. Okay. Yeah. Velus Jones will break out. I promise. But so 34-8 between the Vikings, Packers, and Lions. And of those 8, 4 of them are against the Vikings, Packers, and Lions.
Yeah.
So,
and the other 4 are against division leaders. The Rams, division leaders. I guess the Bucks are not division leaders anymore after Sunday.
I kind of still feel like they're inevitable, but yeah, the Rams, the Bucks, the Bills,
and the Eagles are the losses. Yeah. So not bad. Not bad when you look at it. I mean, this is the crazy thing. Where do you stand, Luke, on playoff redistribution? Because I have been feeling, especially since they added the 7th wild card, or the 7th team, the extra wild card, that winning your division should entitle you only to a spot in the dance, and that we should be seeded, all the teams by overall record. Like I know that this kind of thing is not going to happen every year, but it does seem like every year in one or maybe both conferences, there's a team that wins 8 or 9 games. And it's like, why should they get a home playoff game? Like, Luke, we are looking at a situation right now where there could be a 14-win wild card in the NFC. A 14
I kind of love it.
Wild card.
It's like the worst part of me. That's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of fun. Like a 14, like I think of like the 12-4 Chargers every year that have to go play some terrible AFC South team. And like, I don't, it's like a fun, I just did a show. I was just asked this in a mailbag. You can go listen to a more long-winded answer on the Tuesday episode of Locked On Vikings. But I don't know. There's like something about like some very fun memories have come in that game. And it's like kind of fun specifically because it's unfair. And like I've enjoyed it a lot, and if I got mad at it just because now my team's the team getting hosed about it, like I don't know, like I feel like that wouldn't be fair.
I mean, I wrote a column that was like, they should change this, even though it helps the Vikings. Like that was sort of the tagline of the piece.
Yeah, like the Vikings are getting hosed on it worse than the Packers. Like that, like
right, exactly
an 11-4, that'll be 11-6 or whatever, or what you're going to end up 13-4 as the 6th seed is like wild, but like possibly 15-2 and the. Or 14-3 and a wild card
and a 5 seed,
and a 5 seed,
and
like I wouldn't want
in Atlanta probably, right?
Yeah, like, but like a home underdog in the playoffs is like such a scrappy story. It's like a thing, and I don't want to like lose that forever. I don't know. It's my point is not rooted in fairness at all. Like it is absolutely just a vibes thing about like what I enjoy watching in the playoffs.
It does. It sets up those moments like the Beastquake moment, like that happens. And that becomes more momentous because it's ridiculous that that Saints team had to go on the road against a 7-win Seahawks team. And then that team won as touchdown home underdogs or whatever. They might have been 10-point underdogs. I don't remember exactly what the line was. Like, I understand that's fun, but it's not fair. And so, like, do you want fairness,
fun but
or
not fair.
do you want
Welcome
fun?
to the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, I
where,
guess you're right about that. Yeah, I suppose.
that's the whole deal of them. It's a single elimination format, which means all the narratives can suddenly boil down into like one play, right? Like one.
Well, and that's why
this
this is such a weird week, because the Packers, they clinched on Monday, and you really would have liked, if you're the Packers, obviously you would have liked to beat the Lions, for example. This game would have had a lot more juice, because we still would have had a 3-team race in the NFC North. I still think it's going to be a great game, right? But like, it's the stakes are different, because the Packers are now out of the NFC North divisional race, and that it just takes a little bit of sting out of all of this. So, that's just kind of a bummer. But this is still, I think, two of the teams. There was a stretch where I did not think the Vikings were as good as their record. I still don't know that they're as good as their record, but they convinced me that they're a good team. And they have subsequently convinced me that they are one of the 4 teams in the NFC that I think can win the NFC.
Yeah, there are 4 teams in the NFC. I think we both agree on
that. And I wasn't sure that was the case a month ago. I think frankly, the Lions getting so banged up has helped me sort of lean into saying, well, if the Lions are not going to be a hegemon in the NFC, then like the Vikings have to be in this mix. Like their defense plays too well. Yeah. We see Sam Darnold make, 2 or 3 holy crap plays a game where you're just like, how did he do that? I don't think people recognize. I know I'm preaching to the choir for you and a lot of your audience. The throw to Justin Jefferson at the end of that game, the Seahawks game, that's a crazy play. Like
he does it twice a week,
right? And make those throws. And yes, he still every week tries to throw the ball to the other team twice a game, and maybe they catch it, maybe they don't. But the high level stuff has changed my mind about what their ceiling is, because that high level stuff is there. And if you're a Vikings fan, you have to say the same thing about Jordan Love. Like, he makes 2 or 3 plays every week. Or just like, yeah, that's not a normal play for an NFL quarterback to make, and that makes the Packers really scary.
Yeah, and they're playing off of nothing but spite, because the Packers don't have any juice. The Vikings have all the juice in the world. They're playing for the 1 seed. So we'll talk more about where the Vikings are at and kind of how they match up coming up here on the Locked On Crossover. This Locked On Crossover is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. It is the best way to play daily fantasy. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 of your favorite players, put them in a lineup, and whether they'll do better or worse than their PrizePicks projection. And you can get, right now, if you play $5, you get $50 in bonus bets. This episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Look, if you have a whole bunch of like random charges that you might not even know about, Rocket Money might be something worth looking into. They can help you find subscriptions that you forgot about, or things you were maybe paying for twice, subscriptions that you didn't even realize you were still paying for. Maybe you thought you canceled them. Rocket Money makes it easy to track it all down. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitor your spending, and help lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and they've saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. They have the subscription tracker, so you can keep in one place a handle on everything that you have that you're actually paying for, and consider whether you want to still be paying for those things. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Moving on here with the Locked On Vikings and Locked On Packers crossover. The second one, it's always a fun, it's an event for our viewers, but people ask me about this one more than any other crossover. They love to hate you, Pete. They love to hate you.
I get it. Listen, I get it. The thing is we will never top 2022. It will just never.
I'm never doing that again.
Ever again. And I think you and I are happy about that, because that was a lot. And look,
yeah, that's not how I want a podcast, but it's okay.
No, but it was fun. I have fun with the Vikings fans. I always have fun with you. And so this is a fun opportunity, I think, for two teams that do have a lot on the line right here. Like there's so much to play for both of these teams. You and I have kind of joked that, like, of course, in a year where they're just kind of screwing around, they stumble into the best season that they've had in a long time, and like 2022 excluded, because as Vikings fans will now admit, that team was fake. This team is
they're
not
even
fake.
outpacing 2022, even just by pure record now. Like,
well, and
you don't even have to like look at
differential, and you look at all the underlying metrics and the DVOAs and the EPA per plays and all the good ones. This is a real Vikings team. I've seen the stats of, like, if you take away some X percent of garbage time, they're like the number one team in EPA per play on both sides of the ball. If you set
you don't even have to take away the garbage time anymore.
If you set those sliders the right way.
You don't even have to, on defense, you don't even have to do that. And that's the key difference between this and the 2022 team had an unserious defense. The Ed Donatel defense, they fired a defensive coordinator the day after that playoff game.
God, I always forget that it was Ed Donatel. Jesus.
It was the Ed Donatel disaster year, right? The Ed Donatel had a defense that was so bad they tricked the Giants into signing Daniel Jones to $40 million a year. Like, this happened, and it's so funny that he's in Minnesota now on the practice squad. Like, what a psyop. What a psyop. CIA, FBI, O'Connell did it again. Okay. He's learning from his dad, but the defense this year, not only is it serious, it has been in the conversation for the best defense in the league basically all year. There have been times where, if you want to go EPA or whatever, that, maybe the Broncos are a little better. Maybe the Lions have been better at times, but then now they've fallen off defensively, for obvious reasons. But like, it has been, and not just, oh, this works, it's serious, but like, oh my God, this is formidable. And offenses have all come with completely different looks than what they usually do. Like, I'll go into this crossover and they'll say, oh yeah, our offense does this, this, and that. You won't see any of that in the game because they've come with some weird plan because they're so like bewildered on how to deal with this defense they've never seen before. It's so different from last year where, by this time last year, I think I was like, yeah, the Vikings aren't winning another game. I don't remember if I said that on air or off air to you, but I think I said it last year.
You did. I remember
in my sister's basement. I was like, they're not winning another game because their defense was solved. There were like 3 or 4 things you could just spam over and over that they were not prepared to deal with. And now you don't see that. And like the one of the things that happened in week 4 was the Packers thought that they could kind of bring that same game plan. They ran dagger 10 times in that game. The same pass concept 10 times in that game. And one of them turned into an interception. A couple of them turned into chunk plays. A lot of them turned into incompletions. Or like
4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, they hit like 4 or 5 of them, but then like a few of them went disastrously bad. And I wonder what the Packers will bring, because the defense is real, and that like the team has the sort of like core, the backbone that they didn't have in the last 2 years. And so everything was just sort of like Kirk Cousins chaos in a dream. Not to mention we're getting better quarterback play out of this year than probably we ever got out of Cousins. And like, even at Cousins' best moments, like, that's saying a lot. Like, what Darnold is doing is just utterly obscene. And if he didn't have that name on the back of his jersey and he didn't get mononucleosis in 2019 that made everybody laugh, he would be firmly in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think that people are understanding of what Kevin O'Connell is capable of, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson now have a lot to say about that. But he's playing at a really high level. I think there's no question about that.
Like, he drove that more than any of those guys in the Seahawks game. And I'll stand by that. It was Darnold more than any of those individual receivers. I think the turnovers too.
Well, part of that is just like the way the quarterback position works. Like you can affect the game differently. But to your point, you go back to like the game against the Cardinals, for example, where they come back to win that game. There are 3 or 4 throws that Darnold makes in the fourth quarter that it's like, it doesn't matter if it's Jordan Addison or Justin Jefferson on the other end of those passes. Those are the corner route that he hits to Jordan Addison in that game. Like, that's an unbelievable.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely incrediable.
And so it's like, it kind of doesn't matter. Like, that could have been Jalen Naylor. It could have been Jalen Reagor. Like, it didn't matter.
Jalen Reagor, baby.
Well, it could have been, like, that's how good the throw was. And so, I think if you're a Packers fan wanting for me to come on here and say, look, I think this team is fake and fraudulent and all those things that I said in 2022 about that team, it would just be intellectually dishonest. Like, I don't think that about this team. The offense though is the part of the weird. It's weird to say with Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and Kevin O'Connell, who I think is a hell of a coach, that I think the offense is the part of this team that I think is the place where the Packers can create more advantages, because it has been at times inconsistent. I think pass protection is part of that. You lose Christian Darrisaw, and replace him with a player who's just not Christian Darrisaw, even if it's someone who's started a lot of games.
Cam Robinson's been playing well, but he's not Darrisaw.
Right. And
he's not, he'll still take a few L's a game, and it's not,
or have a holding penalty at the wrong time or a false start penalty at the wrong time. It's been a team that has needed those fourth quarter moments. And, look, you can do that and win a game, and it counts, right? So for the Packers, you have to prevent those moments. You have to prevent, unlike the Lions game, you have to prevent the officials from getting in on all of that.
I don't want to get you going on that.
I'm not. Well, we don't have to. And I don't have as nice.
We don't have to do that.
I don't have as nice a sweater on today to really get into it and lean into it and feel good about it. So I won't do that. But it is. I am more interested in seeing what the Packers are able to do defensively since week 11. Like I said, this is the second defense by DVOA in the league over the last 6 games. This has been one of the best defenses. This Packers defense has been one of the best defenses in the league. And so I think that's the part of this game where if the Packers are going to win, it's going to have to be on defense.
And I think there are a lot of keys to how they will do that. And especially with the stakes kind of as lopsided as they are, where the Packers care just to care and the Vikings have all the reasons in the world to have pressure. Like that changes like the emotional part of it. And that might be a key to the game, plus some of the other ones. All of that will be next here on the Locked On Crossover. This Locked On Crossover is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. As we record this on FanDuel, the Vikings are 1.5-point favorites, basically a pick'em plus a home field advantage. So if you want to get in on that, whether you think that's not favoring the Vikings enough or it's favoring the Vikings way too much, go get in on it on FanDuel. Put your money where your mouth is. And of course, at FanDuel, you can get $250 in bonus bets. You want to end that year strong. If you go to FanDuel.com, you sign up, you place your first $5 bet on whatever. You can put it on something like the Broncos to make the playoffs. That's minus 450 right now. They're like close to clinching. Minus 450 on the Broncos to make the playoffs. Put $5 on that, you can get $250 in bonus bets back. 50-1 odds on that. So if you go to FanDuel.com, set that up, win your first $5 bet, you got to win it, then you can get $250 in bonus bets at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, make every moment more. All right, moving on here with the Locked On Vikings and Locked On Packers crossover. Peter, I think a huge key to all of these games has to be, I mean, it's the most cliche one ever, but I have to bring up turnovers because the Vikings were so turnover prone early in the year.
Yeah.
But we have gone, I think, 6 games, and Sam Darnold's touchdown to interception ratio is 15-1. And the one was a 4th down where it was like smarter to throw it up than it was to like get an incompletion. It ended up costing yards for the Bears. It was on Monday night. He has protected the ball incredibly, but I think if we want to talk about like what those opportunities are on defense for the Packers, it's generating those turnovers. Maybe you can get Aaron Jones to get his fumbleitis back. We got an Aaron Jones fumbleitis moment here. I don't know if you caught that, but that should be shocking, I think, to Packers fans, right? Like that happened.
But I mean, not in a big game. Not in a big game because Aaron Jones has had some big fumbles in big games, unfortunately.
I think it was against like the Titans. Like it was weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, a couple weeks ago, right? He fumbled 3 times or something in a game. The turnovers, this is, like how did the Packers want to generate turnovers, I guess is my question. Well, there's 2 ways. One is in the backfield on the quarterback. So we saw it.
It's the Xavier McKinney thing.
Nickel pressure, Keyshawn Nixon gets a sack fumble on Spencer Rattler. Those kinds of they've done the thing. And so I had Evan Williams for Locked On Vikings fans who are not as interested in Locked On Packers day to day as our everydayers. I had Evan Williams, the Packers safety, on last week, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, did you watch that Vikings game and that Texans game and go, all this simulated pressure, like this kind of works. Like we should try and like do some more of this stuff. And in the second half,
game planning.
and look, I was like half joking about it, but he kind of refused to tell me. And so I was like, okay, maybe that's there's a little realness in there.
You're talking about faking pressure, like showing a bunch of people on the lines and then backing off with a 4-man rush,
which is a Brian Flores specialty. And
that happens all the time.
Sack fumble on Sam Darnold in that first game off a simulated pressure where they only bring 4 technically, but Keyshawn Nixon is unblocked off the edge and it turns into a sack fumble. Same thing happened against Spencer Rattler, where you get the sack fumble with guys off the edge. They've been doing it.
The running backs have screwed those up a lot for the Vikings, and that's who you got to be attacked. You got to like make the running back think, and they've made some mistakes all over the depth chart, not just Jones, but CJ Ham.
You and I were joking about it the other day on Twitter, where you showed a picture of that was not even simulated pressure. That was all out pressure. They showed it and brought it, and the running back looks right at the linebacker coming up the middle and goes, "Now I'll go to the outside."
Goes and gets the guy on the edge.
And so
that's the third time that's happened this year. So I don't know what that is, either an exploit in like the way they do it, or the running back's brains just keep falling out,
or both. But and then on the other side, so not to bring up Evan Williams again, but what he said was he wants the Packers to be the Jeff Hafley wants the Packers to be the best disguised team in the NFL. And so they pride themselves on, like, they've gotten to our pal Rich Madrid over at Acme Packing Company has charted, and I'm sure this is a similar number for the Vikings, but charted the number of ways just getting pre-snap to inverted cover 2. And it's like 9 different ways pre-snap they've showed something and then gotten to inverted cover 2. So like those kinds of things where it's basically Tampa 2, but your corners and safeties flip responsibilities. That's something that Brian Flores likes to do too.
For sure.
And so
it takes away a lot of the quick stuff. It takes away, like, you can't run like slant flat when you don't, if you are like misdiagnosing the coverage pre-snap, like it relies on a pre-snap diagnosis. But what the Vikings do is they never do anything quick, which is also exploitable from a pressure perspective. But that kind of, like, the coverage will have declared by the time Darnold needs to make a decision.
Right. Well, and this is where I was getting to. This is if you look at it, it is the case, and it is very weird. If you look at the best quarterbacks under pressure this season, Sam Darnold is among them, whether you're looking at Pro Football Focus grade, rating when pressured, those kinds of things. But just overall, he still has one of the higher turnover-worthy play rates in the league. He's 7th in turnover-worthy play rates as graded by Pro Football Focus. So to your point, he is taking care of the football in outcome, but the process can still be a little wonky at times. And I think for the Packers, they're going to need to create some turnovers. They're going to need to catch the ball. You know, the old Charles Woodson line, if you caught every pass as a defender that the quarterback throws right to you, you're an all-pro. So just make the plays that are presented to you. And I think the Packers are going to have to do that if they want to win this game, because it's just, this team is too good down to down, play to play, to think you can just line up and consistently beat them. And I think that's where they are. For the Vikings, like, this offense has been the weaker of the 2 units, which is weird to say for Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison and Kevin O'Connell. But offensively, like, what is the matchup that you feel like they can exploit against Green Bay? Like, what are they going to have to do to score enough to hang with the Packers, who are going to be able, they score 30 points on everyone now?
Well, yeah, the Packers have been so banged up in the secondary all year long.
Yeah.
Don't know what the heck's going on with Jair Alexander and all that, but there have to be matchups there. And outside of the second game last year, which was, the Jaren Hall disaster thing, there's been 2 other games that Jordan Addison has played as a Viking against the Packers, and he's smoked them both times, both of the Lambeau games. So I'm looking at this one and saying, okay, is
Joe Barry's not walking through that door, but yes, I understand.
Well, he got him really bad week 4 too. Yep. So even if they find the way to, slow down Justin Jefferson, even if they do the same, like 2-man, Jair Alexander, press the heck out of Justin Jefferson, mug him at the line, be physical. That's the kind of
that game.
That's a lot of teams have found that to be the only way to get Justin Jefferson not to put up 150 on him. But very few of those teams have found a way to win the game anyways, because when they do that, that usually is going to leave Hawkinson or Addison one-on-one, or it requires 2 high alignments, and that means you're running on them. And so the Vikings have punished that really bad. So, but let's say they find a way to slow down Jefferson. What's the matchup that Addison will have feels like he's kind of had the Packers number in terms of getting that separation at the very least, because I think he got a lot of, well, he was hurt actually in that second game, so of course he didn't go off. He was out. But in the game last year, so when he's playing, he does great against the Packers. Is Addison the Packer killer? I think that's something to watch, but I think it's got to be those matchups on the outside, and can they find a way, especially to be physical, and that's maybe the thing we haven't talked about enough here, is how physical the Packers are, how physical the Vikings are, and how I think whoever wins that thing up front and gets that push has this advantage where, who can force the other guy to put a safety in the box, and then you suddenly get a one-on-one you really like. That's really, I think, the tipping point. As soon as somebody starts getting those one-on-ones, then I think, the quarterback can make the throw.
I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, because as you mentioned, I just watched the Packers beat up a Saints team that, they did not have to beat up the way that they did. Like the physical
JV Saints. Well, they play pissed off in December, and that's a LaFleur thing, right? Like and
to do it, I started calling it with the Toyotathon Jordan Love thing. I started calling it the December to remember Matt LaFleur, because he's got the best December record ever. For a modern coach, he's got a better December record than Vince freaking Lombardi at this point in his NFL career, which is remarkable. And they have started to really play a nasty, mean brand of football. And I know that it's not going to be cold in Minnesota indoors. It will probably be very cold outside. But I think that that's one of those things. Like if you're going to meet the moment that the Vikings are going to bring to bear with all the, like they went out and they're the 1 seed, right? So if you're going to meet that moment, if you're Green Bay, it has to be because you show up more pissed off to play football on Sunday afternoon. And I think that's going to have to be the formula here. And you're going to have to play buttoned up. You're going to have to play disciplined, especially against the Brian Flores defense, especially against the Kevin O'Connell offense. It's so damn annoying that the Vikings and the Lions are so well coached. It's so annoying that is the case.
They win the penalty battle every time.
Please, bad team X, go hire Brian Flores. Ben Johnson, please get up the hell out of the NFC North. Aaron Glenn, I don't really care that much. But congratulations on the New Orleans Saints job. I guess. So Ross Jackson will enjoy that. I know he will.
Somebody has to take it, huh?
So, well, theoretically, who knows? So what is your feel for where we are right now with this game? Like, is there a key injury? Like, or are you ready to just pronounce that this is a Vikings victory?
No, I mean, it's a 1.5 spread. It should be a tough game. For both sides. It should be a hard fought game. If it's not, I think that's more surprising than one side winning or the other.
I agree.
Here's where my heart is at right now, because the last 3 years, the Vikings have won the first game of the season against the Packers, and then they've played them the second to last week of the year and gotten absolutely curb stomped. And I know that players who have been in the building for all of those, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, guys on the old line, guys that have been in there, because that goes back to Zimmer. And I don't think anybody on the defense, the whole defense is turned around from even 2 years ago. Patrick Peterson's not here anymore, but
how long is Harrison
guys
Phillips
who have been in the building for all of that? Say what?
Harrison Phillips has got to remember some of that. Yeah.
Harrison Phillips. Well, he wasn't here in 2021, and it's like, I think that happened then too. But like it was Michael Pierce that year. But it's been this like extremely predictable thing that like the Vikings will just fall totally flat on their face. But this has been the year of the Vikings breaking the curses that they've always had. Kickers were missing field goals against them. They won in Seattle. Like they're doing things they haven't done in 20 years. So can this be the next thing? And I think this is more of a test, right? I mean, the Packers are playing better than any of the last like 9 teams they've played, right? So this becomes the test. They got to play the Packers, the Lions, and then playoffs teams, right? So really the playoff caliber football starts now. What do you have in you? And by the way, can you buck this tradition of totally falling flat on your face the second time you play Matt LaFleur? Like that's where my like heart is at. What actually happens? I have no idea. And I think you're overconfident if you say you absolutely know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I don't. I mean, again, it's early in the week as we record this, but I don't have a great feel for this game. I've had, I will say, and I was just saying this to someone, a league source that I was talking to. That like, look, I there have been years where we've done this. I don't know if you feel this, where I have not had a great feel for the team. Like 2019, I did not understand that Packers team at all. I feel like this is probably the best I've understood a Packers team this year. And or like this season since 2017 that I've been doing this. This is the best I've understood a Packers team. I think they're going to try their very hardest to win this game. But I do feel like there is that incentive difference that these teams are close enough that where we are right now with this team is, I think that could end up being the difference. That the fact that this is still the one seed on the line.
But the Vikings have more to play for.
Is there's more pressure. And I wonder, this version of this Vikings team, Sam Darnold, they have not really had a game like that where that has been the case. Now, the end of the Seahawks game, maybe notwithstanding, we'll see.
Yeah.
And that's where I think if you're the Packers, you're going to say, okay, we know our best game is good enough to beat this Vikings team. Is rinsing the bad taste out of your mouth, is pride, is divisional rivalry, is all that stuff. Is that enough? And there is this big game monkey that the Packers kind of want to get off their back. They have not beaten a really good team in a big spot like this season yet. And so if they want to go be an NFC Super Bowl contender, they have to go beat a good team to do it, right? So this is their opportunity. And so that's where I am with the game right now.
No matter what happens here, one of us is like gonna go for 3 of these crossovers with Matt Derry. Like, it just feels inevitable that one of us is gonna go play in the Lions one way or another. But there's still a lot of this NFC.
It would not surprise me if you, me, and Matt have an extra one all.
If we all did, yeah. If that was like the path to the Super Bowl is through the other two NFC North teams. But there's a lot of football yet to be played, a lot of decisions yet to be played. Peter, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. We will please go listen to Peter. I always tell him go listen to Locked On Packers. Do your Oppo research. All right, go do your Scouting Packers fans. You're of course welcome to come hang out here while I pull these together on the holiday weekend on my little travel setup. Thank you guys so much for hanging out on this Locked On crossover episode, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.